Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everybody out for our August luncheon. We've got a fantastic crowd, and I think that is not a coincidence. We have a wonderful speaker today. We have United States Congressman Andy Barr with us today. First and foremost, I'd like to ask Pastor Doug Couch from the Redeemer Lutheran Church to please come forward to bless today's luncheon.
I'm the pastor without a building right now. We are the church that got blown away by the F4 tornado on May 16th. Just let everybody know we're still meeting, we're still there, and we will be back in our building as soon as we can get funds raised and building underway. Our council chair, Dr. Sandy Schultheis, is heading up some of our fundraising, and she has tickets and flyers for our silent and auction coming up in September. See her for the full information on that. And many of you as business people in our community have heard our cries and have contributed to that auction. And for that, we give you thanks. So let's bow together as we pray. Holy God, we thank you for the gifts that you give us. Gifts that enable us to make a living. And not only make a living, but help others to be employed and make a living as well. And we praise you and we thank you for the gifts of commerce, the gifts of abilities to raise money for our businesses and to provide a service and a product that people need and want. Forgive us, God, when we fall into the trap of self-sufficiency. Forgive us when we look at what we're doing and say, look what I did. God, remind us today that all good gifts come from you. And remind us today that we are your children and you love us each. In the name of Christ we gather. Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Couch. We appreciate that. We have 1 2 for Tuesday today. I believe that Marvin Guerrero is here from Bridging Lake Cumberland. Marvin, where are you at? There. Oh, well, you can't miss Marvin. There he is. There's Marvin. Come on up, Marvin. How you doing, buddy?
Muchas gracias, Bobby. Good afternoon. My name is Marvin Guerrero. And I am el presidente of Bridging Lake Cumberland, a local 501c3 nonprofit. And our vision is working together to build a stronger, united community, enhance cultural expression, and foster inclusion. We do this through a variety of ways, whether it's hosting financial education classes in both English and Spanish at our local Goodwill, translating at local events, or my personal favorite, if you're on Facebook, it's promoting our local businesses with the sombrero in English and Spanish, such as Costas del Mar Mexican Seafood, Alton Blakely Honda, Boba's Cafe, and Burnett Farms, just to name a few. But today, I'd like to bring your attention to this, the Festival Latino de Lake Cumberland 2025. Raise the hands, how many of you were here last year for that? Oh, we got quite a few. So this will be on Saturday, September 13th from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's our second year, and it will be in the Judicial Plaza and parts of downtown Somerset. So I want to give a big thank you to our local governments for allowing that to happen. Really appreciate it. So this will be a day of live music. We'll have mariachi, cumbias, we'll have bounce houses, kids activities, and of course authentic Hispanic foods from countries such as Nicaragua, Mexico, Guatemala, Cuba, El Salvador. So fantastic food. You'll definitely want to come out. Last year we had over 2,500 people in attendance. I think this year we'll expect more than 3,500, just being conservative there, hopefully. And today we are looking for businesses just like yours to partner with us in growing together. Our sponsorship packages are tailor-made to fit every budget and can even include meal vouchers for you and your team. So before you leave, be sure to talk to me, scan our QR code on our flyers, or pick up a flyer at the back table. And I want to end with this. We could not pull off a festival of this magnitude without your generous support. So I'd like to thank Superior Market, TTAI, Fuentes Roofing, Kinetic, Lake Cumberland Tourism, and my very own Fork Bank for being the first investors of Lake Cumberland Festival Latino, the 2025. Thank you.
Thanks, Marvin. I'm going to just say Marvin's doing a great job here in our community. He's really working to bridge that gap between our Hispanic population and the rest of the us gringos here in town. And I'll tell you something, he's done an excellent job. So I appreciate that very much. We have a lot of information tables here today. This is a free service that we provide for our members. They can set up, talk about their businesses, their organizations, and I would encourage everybody, and I always ask this, but we have a big crowd today, so I'll ask one more time. You know, I would encourage everybody, before you leave today, find a business, find an organization that you don't know a lot about, and stop by and say hello. Just go meet one business, one organization today before you leave, and learn a little bit more about some of these great organizations that are doing work here in our community. We're going to recognize them real quick with everybody that's here. So we have Citizens National Bank, Hinkle Contracting, L&N 3D Printing. That's one of our Young Entrepreneurs Academy students. There's our students back there from this past year. Definitely go see them. They're awesome. Expressions Tea and Gifts, Highland Square Senior Living, Kinetic, Incremental Systems, Skyhope Women's Recovery Center, Bridging Lake Cumberland, Gratitude Adjustment, Somerset 106 and Fork Broadcasting, Goodwill Industries of Somerset, Colonial Life Insurance, Christy Jones, agent, Schultz Career Counseling, and AT&T. Let's give them all a big round of applause. The last thing that I'm going to talk about, because I know that we're excited about our speaker today, the last thing I want to talk about, everybody should have some of these flyers on your tables. Very excited about this. This is our annual legislative update. We do this every summer. It is always incredibly well attended. This year's legislative update is going to be held on Thursday, August the 14th. This is going to be out at Sorrento's Bar and Grill. So that is the former Harbor Restaurant out at Lee's Ford Marina. So it's now Sorrento's Bar and Grill. They are going to be hosting us this year. I would encourage everybody, if you're interested in what our legislators have to say, this is the place to do it. They're going to talk about two things: what happened, what was accomplished in this past legislative session, and also what can we expect potentially in the upcoming session. So I see a lot of our legislators here. I'm looking at Representative Baker out there right now. I saw Representative Upchurch over there. You know, if you want to know what's going on with roads, you got to talk to Ken. That's just how it works now for the state of Kentucky. He's the man. We've got Representative Meade, who is our Speaker Pro Tem. We have a lot of legislators that represent Pulaski County. So, and we have our state senator, Rick Girdler, as well. They're all going to be there. They're all confirmed to attend. I would encourage everybody to come out to this. We will have a huge crowd on that back deck at Sorrento's, so come out and enjoy that on August the 14th. We've got some other fun announcements that we're going to be making over the course of the next few months, but I'm going to go ahead and I want to get everything turned over to my president, the boss of the chamber this year, Miss Laura Glover. I'm going to turn it over to her.
So welcome to our August Chamber Luncheon. We'll call the meeting to session. Thank you for so many people coming out. We must have a really good guest speaker. I'm assuming. So we are excited to hear everything you have to say, Andy. I do want to say we have a ton of great guests, public officials, and chamber members here today. So could all of the public officials stand up to be recognized? We also want to thank and recognize all of our world-class and our chairman and ambassador circle sponsors. Obviously, they're on the wall every single luncheon that we have, also on your tables. So if you're sitting with them, appreciate their efforts. This is how our chamber is so successful. We also really just want to say financially, that is how we make everything happen here. So appreciation also goes out to my boss, Lonnie Lawson. He has been such a big part of our luncheon series. And I also want to thank Sassy Spoon Catering, Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola Bottling. And now we're going to hear from one of our past presidents. As we know, the Chamber of Commerce represents economic development. And that is what Mike Whitaker represents. He is the broker and developer of Eagle Realty, but he's also somebody that I look up to as a community leader. Thank you, Mike, for being with us, and I can't wait to hear about your experience with the Chamber.
I grew up in the trucking business, but have kind of evolved into more restaurants and real estate. I have a lot of different business interests, but that's where I spend most of my time these days.
So how would you say the Chamber has impacted your business success in Somerset, Kentucky?
Well, I think the Chamber, especially under Bobby Clue's reign, has been very instrumental in keeping Somerset fueled and going and growing. And it's just, I think it's just the nucleus of business in the community.
So we are coming up on the 100th year anniversary of our local chamber, and your family has been in business equally as long. Talk about the parallel and what does 100 years mean to you from a business standpoint, family, and a chamber standpoint?
Well, my grandfather, Charlie B. Hogg, H-O-G-G, he moved to this area in the mid 1920s, about 100 years ago. He worked in the mines in Lynch, Kentucky, and moved to Somerset and was involved in the startup of Somerset Machine Shop, which is no longer around. Is kind of at the corner of, it's kind of across from the United Methodist Church. And he did that for several years and then left town and became a minister. But my father started in the trucking business in the mid 40s in Somerset, hauling coal and lumber. And, our family's still in that. My son, third generation, he's in trucking. So, we've, some part of my family has been in business in Pulaski County for 100 years.
So what do you think it means if you can stay in business that long? What does it say, whether it's the chamber or a small business or large business?
Well, I think the first thing it says is that our community is a good place to be in business. And again, that's, I think if it wasn't for the chamber, the business community couldn't be and wouldn't be what it is. But, I've been up and down in business. But, all in all, Somerset's been very good to me, and the community has been very good to me. The people in the community have been very good to me and very supportive.
So a new person moving to Somerset, a new maybe small business starting here, why would you tell them to join the chamber?
Well, the first thing is, and I tell, we have a lot of rental property and we lease to a lot of small businesses. And, I tell everybody that they need to join the chamber, if nothing else, for the ribbon cutting that the chamber does. I mean, they do a ribbon cutting and they get local people there, and, you usually picture in the paper and recognize them at the chamber monthly chamber meetings, and I just think it's a good way for a new business to get started. Of course, the chamber has a lot of other things now, like the young professionals. You know, there's a lot of different avenues for young people or young business people to get involved in, to help springboard them into the business community and grow in the business community.
So the last thing is one word to describe the chamber.
Probably the word I would use is innovative. You know, I think that the chamber has, especially under Bobby's reign, has been very innovative in how they've grown the chamber. I mean, I think you said there's over 1,000 members.
Yes.
And, you know, back when I was involved, I mean, there wasn't near that. Again, couldn't hardly pay their bills at times. So I think they're very innovative in what they do and how they do it.
Thank you all. It's my pleasure each month to welcome new members to the chamber. This month we have 11 new members. So I'd like to recognize them. If you're here, please stand so we can recognize you. Raise your hand, at least we can see you. Cardinal Boat Storage, Betty Cornett. Costa Supply Incorporated, Jonathan Chad Penix. D&M Muffler, Mike Strump. Fast Track Maintenance, Malachi Brown. Fishing Creek Rentals, Betty Cornett. And Gratitude Adjustment, Integrated Care Clinic, Tommy Mullins. Net Vision Digital, Emma Rain. Nurture Nest Counseling, Rebecca Patterson. Ship and Go, Mahut Patel. Yes. Vinny RV Camp, Brett Smitty. Brett. And Vision Works, Travis Weigert. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bruce. And I also want to thank today's luncheon sponsors. We have two of them, Citizens National Bank and Hinkle Contracting. So a few fun facts about Citizens National Bank. They were founded in 1920, so serving the community for over 100 years. So very similar to what we're doing with the Chamber, celebrating 100 years. The bank has grown over $700 million in assets. That is due to the dedicated staff and all of the loyal customers. So thank you so much. I also want to introduce Jacob Cheney. He is the area manager of construction for Hinkle, and he's also going to introduce our good friend Andy Barr. And thank you, Andy, for being here.
Laura, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody here. Thank you to Bobby and your team. Bobby really strives to make these luncheons, informative and engaging, and today will be no different. I'm going to introduce our speaker today. Andy Barr has served as the United States Representative for Kentucky's 6th Congressional District since 2013. During his time in Congress, Congressman Barr has been a champion for Kentucky families, farmers, small business owners, fighting to keep taxes low and against overly burdensome regulations. Congressman Barr graduated from Lexington's Henry Clay High School in 1992, earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Government and Philosophy, Phi Beta Kappa, from the University of Virginia in 1996, and received his law degree from the University of Kentucky in 2001. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to our keynote today, Congressman Andy Barr.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate the nice introduction, and it is great to be with the Pulaski Somerset Chamber of Commerce. Great to be in Southern Kentucky. So let me first thank Bobby Clue and his terrific team. Bobby and I go way back. He's a good friend, and he's done such a great job, as Mike Whitaker pointed out, such a great job leading the business community and the Chamber of Commerce here for many, many years. Bobby, I'm proud to call you a good friend. And Laura, you and Larry are also good friends, and it's great to see you in the leadership role here with the Chamber of Commerce. It's an honor to be with all of you all. I have to start by thanking your congressman, my mentor, Chairman Hal Rogers, the Dean of the U.S. House. Only 1 out of 435 congressional districts get a chance to say, we're represented by number one, and you are represented by number one. That is an extraordinary gift to you all. There's a reason why Hal Rogers is number one. He has ascended to the Dean of the House, I would argue, not just because he's of longevity, but because he has earned it. He's earned the respect of his colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And I have the privilege of getting to see the quality of the representation that Pulaski, Somerset, and all of the 5th District has in ways that even you all do not. I know Karen Kelly's not here, but Andrea is, and so they've heard me say this before to groups, but I have to tell you, when Hal Rogers talks in Washington, people listen. He's pretty selective about when he speaks. There's so many of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle who like to hear themselves talk, and they have nothing to say, or nothing good to say, or nothing productive to say. Hal Rogers always has something meaningful and purposeful to say, and because of his wisdom, his years of experience, his effectiveness, and his gentlemanly manner, people listen and pay attention. So the effectiveness of your congressman cannot be overstated, and I just want to say how grateful I am to my friend and mentor, Hal Rogers, not only for his endorsement of me in this U.S. Senate campaign that's coming up, but all he's taught me over the years, and the fact that he's invited me into his own congressional district and allowed me to come talk to all of you all, his I know, very grateful constituents. Let me also recognize some of our other terrific leaders here. Judge Todd, thank you for your hospitality and for your friendship. Mayor Keck, good to visit with you, and thank you for all you've done for Somerset over the years. I got a chance to visit with Representative Upchurch from down in Wayne County just a minute ago. Good to Ken and I have known each other for over 20 years since I worked in the Fletcher administration, so good to see you. And Shane Baker, Representative Baker, good to see you. Thank you very much for your outstanding leadership and representation of this community in Frankfort as well. Let me first offer my condolences to this community in Laurel County for the tornado. Just devastating. And, you know, we come together as Kentuckians, Republicans and Democrats at the state level, at the federal level, when things like this happen. And we worked with the administration, with the Trump administration. I worked with Congressman Rogers to support the request from Governor Beshear for the disaster declaration. It took a little while to get all of the data in to make sure we got the declaration done the way it needed to be done, but ultimately, finally, in July, we did get the major disaster declaration for the May 16th, 17 tornado outbreak. 6 counties ultimately received both the individual and public assistance, including Laurel and Pulaski counties, and condolences to all of the families and the church that was impacted. Businesses also sustained damage, but the storm cleanup costs are significant and will exceed $59 million, if not more than that. So I know Karen Kelly and Congressman Rogers are there to help anyone affected through SBA loans, disaster benefits, repair grants, FEMA assistance, but do know that my office also stands ready to assist in any way that we can as well. So what I thought I might do is give you a little bit of an intro of who I am, because although I've represented the Central Kentucky Congressional District for 13 years now, I'm in my 7th term, some of you may not be as familiar with me and who I am and why I'm here. but also tell you a little bit, give you a little update on what's going on in Washington, D.C., and what I think is really top of mind. So my name is Andy Barr. I've served as Kentucky's congressman for the 6th Congressional District for now 7 terms. I was first elected in 2012. The 6th district, for those of you who don't know, is the Central Kentucky District, just north of here. Lexington, all the way down to Berea. Berea is the closest I get to you guys, but all the way north to Georgetown and over to Flemingsburg, Mount Sterling, Winchester, Estill County. And then over in the west, I have Versailles, Harrodsburg, Lawrenceburg. I used to have Frankfort, but redistricting moved Franklin County out of the area. I am a very proud husband and a busy father. So I'm the father of Eleanor, who's age 14, who just made the Lexington Catholic volleyball team. Very excited about that. She had her first volleyball tournament this weekend. I was at Fancy Farm, but I got back for her 2 games on Sunday. Got a chance to see her. Very proud of that. Mary Clay is 12. She's going into 6th grade. We're at math camp today. We're getting ready for math camp. And then I have a little one, Hale, who's almost 2 and is starting to talk. And it's so much fun to be a dad of a youngster again. I am an 8th generation Kentuckian. All 4 of my grandparents were born and raised in the central Kentucky area. I am the grandson of 2 World War II veterans. I graduated from the University of Kentucky College of Law way back in 2001, and I represented mainly in my private practice in the private sector. I represented small businesses, typically against administrative agencies, home builders, horse trainers. I did some real estate transactions, represented some banks. I did some municipal finance. We did some hospital financings in my law practice. Did some litigation work. But it was in 2010 that I was kind of motivated when I saw what was happening to my fellow Kentuckians really closer here and in the East with the decline in the coal jobs and the overregulation of the coal industry and the fact that we were losing not only jobs but our competitive advantage as Kentuckians, that low industrial utility costs that really drive industry in Kentucky. And it motivated me to run for Congress. And I flipped a seat ultimately. It took me 2 times. I don't know if you remember this, but I ran in 2010 against my predecessor, Ben Chandler. Came up short, lost by only about 647 votes, but kept going. And I say now to a lot of school groups and kids when they're looking for some advice, perseverance is the most important quality anyone can ever give you, impart on you. And I looked at that first election in 2010, and I look back at it now, and I don't see that as a loss. I see that as phase 1 of a 2-phase victory, because it came back in 2012, kept at it, got my name ID up a little bit stronger, and people kept believing in me, and I won, and I flipped that seat, and I've represented that district now for 7 terms. I've served on the House Financial Services for the entirety of that service, where I focused on community banks. I see Ballard Cassidy here, Sean, and Citizens are here. I do that because I believe that these community financial institutions are really the American dream makers in this country. Whether it's a mortgage for a first-time home buyer, whether it's a Main Street small business loan for that new business that's just forming, a lot of these businesses here in this room, whether it's providing all of the community support to the Little League or the charity, all of the philanthropic work of community banks. And I saw the Dodd-Frank law, just like the war on coal and the avalanche of red tape and regulation, really threatening our community financial institutions that provide 90% of all agricultural loans and all of those Main Street loans and the American dream of home ownership, those loans as well. And so I've dedicated my service to fighting for the signature industries of Kentucky, whether it's the bourbon industry, the coal industry, the auto manufacturing industry. I have the blessing of representing the largest single Toyota manufacturing plant in the whole wide world in Georgetown, Kentucky. And the horse industry and agriculture and all of those sectors of our economy that give meaning, purpose, and prosperity to the people of Kentucky. And it's been really a privilege to get a chance to do that. And this will be my last term in the U.S. House, and I've decided to run for the Senate seat, the open Senate seat that's coming up in 2026. And really, I'm doing that because it's been a blessing and privilege of a lifetime to represent Central Kentucky. But I'm a Kentuckian, and I've been coming down here to Pulaski County all my life. I've camped at the Narrows and B-Rock. Pulaski County, my brother-in-law has a place on Lake Cumberland. I was at Fancy Farm and got a chance to meet all those great Western Kentucky folks, and I've learned about the barge industry and what they're doing with nuclear power in Paducah. Of course, I've fought for the coal industry in far eastern Kentucky for my entire career. I used to go to the Reds games up in northern Kentucky, park on northern Kentucky, go over to the Reds games with my dad. And so, you know, and Louisville is the economic engine. So it's not just about Central Kentucky for me, it's about the whole Commonwealth. I don't know how I could possibly become a U of L Cardinal fan, but because I represent the Big Blue Nation, but I do want to represent all of Kentucky. And it would be even a greater privilege to get a chance to fight for all of Kentucky. So that's who I am, and that's what makes me go. And you know, I was raised in the era of Ronald Reagan, and so I do believe my political philosophy. I believe in limited government, free enterprise, and a strong national defense. And a great American once said, "There is no limit to what free men and free women in a free market with free enterprise can achieve when they are free to follow their dream." I love that. That was Jack Kemp, by the way. I love that idea. That's the idea of the American dream. The American dream is the idea that regardless of the condition of your birth, if you work hard and play by the rules in the United States of America, you can make it. And for many years, because of, you know, what's happened in eastern Kentucky, because of distress in our economy, because of COVID, because of the financial crisis or the ups and downs of life, many Americans have felt like the American dream is slipping away from them. I believe in public service, and I'm in public service because I want to restore the American dream. I want to restore optimism, hope, and the idea of upward mobility for every American. That's really what I believe. And so that's why I'm so excited about what's happening in Washington right now. I do think we're back on the right track. Let me give you a little update on what's going on. Part of my job as a member of the Financial Services Committee, as the chairman of the Financial Institution Subcommittee, is to oversee the Federal Reserve and oversee the situation with inflation. We just came out of a really tough period of time where the cost of living was out of control. Highest levels of inflation in 40 years. Groceries, gas, the cost of your homeowner's insurance, everything was really through the roof. And it's still a little elevated, to be fair, but it's come down a little bit. We're closer to the 2% target. The Federal Reserve sets that 2% target. But we still have elevated interest rates. And I monitor the Fed, and I do think that we are on track, despite the chairman's holding pat, that we are on track for potentially 1 or 2 cuts in the interest rate, in the federal funds rate, this fall. So for those of you in housing and real estate, realtors out there, I know that's music to your ears, but we're not quite there yet. And but we are on track, and I think the data does support. The data do support a cut in interest rates, at least one this fall. The growth is pretty robust right now. We're at 3%, but we do still have this hangover from the inflation period. That's why I'm so excited about this bill that we just passed in Washington. They call it the One Big Beautiful Bill. A key feature of that was the tax cuts that were made permanent in the bill. So if you remember back in 2017, I got a chance to vote for the Trump tax cuts, which cut the corporate income tax rates, which was really rocket fuel for our economy. We made those permanent, but there were several small business tax provisions that were not made permanent. Well, we made those permanent in this bill. That's really important, because if we did nothing, if we had not succeeded in this One Big Beautiful Bill, the American taxpayer was looking at a $4.5 trillion tax increase. Now that is completely unsustainable. That would have put us in a recession. So this was a really important bill. And so for small businesses, what are some of the really key features? Bonus depreciation for 5 years. And we're already seeing the positive effects of that. Jet fuel for the economy, meaning that a lot of capital expenditures, investment is being pulled forward. And we're already starting to see the signs of that, where businesses see that the bill was passed and they're starting to spend. That's good for investment. R&D deductibility, so research and development. More businesses can invest in research and development. Expensing, immediate expensing. Interest deductibility. These are all business provisions that are very, very important. There's a new provision, which again, I think is really good for economic growth. And that is that if you build a factory in the United States, if you invest in either a manufacturing facility or an agriculture operation, and it's a brand new operation, it's a new investment, and it's retroactive to January 1st of this year. If you put shovels in the ground now, and you put that asset, that new factory or that new agricultural operation into service before 2032, you can expense it 100% in that year that you put it into service. That is massive. That will supplement the president's tariff policies to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States. It's a magnet for more manufacturing jobs, and I think you're going to start to see the benefits of that very, very soon. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security benefits for a certain category of Social Security beneficiaries. These are all campaign promises made and campaign promises met. Of all of those, you know, we all like to tip our waitresses and the restaurant staff and the people who do that great work day in and day out. But I'll tell you the one that I'm excited about is this no tax on overtime. Think about our first responders, and I back the blue. We've got these great law enforcement officers, our first responders, our ambulance drivers, the paramedics. Those first responders do a lot of overtime. They deserve it. They deserve to be paid overtime without getting any taxes on that. The waitresses who have the third job or they're working to put food on the table for their family, they deserve it. They need the break. They need the relief on no tax on tips. But that no tax on overtime is also very good for economic growth, because think about that. We've had a labor shortage in this country, and this is going to encourage more workers to put in that extra shift, to do more overtime. That's all about productivity. That's going to pull forward a lot of this economic growth that we're about ready to see. So my prediction is that we've got, because of the trade uncertainty, we had a bit of a correction in the stock market, but then it roared back. We've got a correction embedded. We're basically back in a bull market. We had a little bit of a sell-off last week, but we're going to see that come back pretty strong. We're poised for an interest rate cut. Inflation is now back to close to the target rate, and we have these tax cuts that are in effect now that is jet fuel for the economy. So I think the economy is poised for a really strong run. And it's not just the tax cuts. It's also what's happening in energy and in regulatory policy. And I would argue in trade policy. So you have the tax cuts in place. And by the way, there's some great individual tax relief in there for families on the child tax credit and the standard deduction. But on top of the tax cuts, you have an energy dominance strategy where you have the Department of Energy, the Department of the EPA, and also the Council on Energy Dominance, Doug Burgum with the Department of Interior, unleashing American energy, reversing the war on energy. That's good in the fight against inflation too, because the more energy production, energy goes into everything, more energy supply means prices come down. So that's what you're going to see with that. And then deregulation. This is also good for the economy, and it's good for the fight against inflation. And on the Financial Services Committee, we're working to provide that relief for our community financial institutions. Why is that good? That also brings down the cost of credit. When we reduce regulations on community banks, mid-sized banks, regional banks, we provide that relief. We allow more competition for credit. That lowers the cost of credit. And that is good for the American dream and for the cost of borrowing for businesses and homeowners. And that agenda is in full swing. We are working very, very diligently on an agenda that is going to push tailored regulations so that a community bank like Citizens or Fork Bank, they don't face the same kind of regulatory pressures as JP Morgan because they shouldn't have to. One thing that's happening this week in Washington is the president is issuing an executive order that reinforces a bill that I've been fighting for many, many years in Washington, and a bill that we've marked up out of our committee, and that is a bill to make sure that regulators, bank regulators, do not pressure banks to debank politically unpopular businesses. So if you're in the firearms business, or if you're in the coal industry, or you're a crypto provider, in years past, regulators have said, well, that creates reputational risk, or you shouldn't be doing business with those kinds of politically unfavorable businesses. And so the regulators, through what's called Operation Choke Point, would pressure those banks to debank those industries. The administration is putting out an executive order that copies a bill that I've been working on for many, many years, that we've worked with the bankers to make sure it's right, that it's focused not on the banks, but focused on the regulators, make sure that the regulators don't prevent banks from banking who they want to. And that's a development that's happening this week in Washington, D.C. One other thing before I move and finish up on national security, and that is you may have heard of crypto, or the blockchain, or this new technology that is coming at us very fast. Well, we in the House Financial Services Committee have passed 3 bills that we think are very, very important as we look into the future, and as we look into the future of financial technology and the way in which we transact business in America. And you may not think, oh, this has really nothing to do with my business. This is something kind of that for other people, crypto. I don't need to do it. I don't believe in this. The Bitcoin, what is this? This is coming whether we want it or not. And it's coming fast. And what do I mean by that? Bitcoin is just a cryptocurrency. It's a crypto commodity. It has massively increased in value, but it's a volatile commodity. There's been a lot of uncertainty around the law relating to the blockchain. And the blockchain is basically just a distributed ledger, and it allows you to do things digitally that you used to not do. They call it Web 3. Web 1 was the internet back in the 1990s, where we could go to websites and get information. Web 2.0 was social media, where you were able to actually engage yourself proactively and put your information out through the internet. Web 3.0 is the blockchain, where you actually can move financial transactions onto the internet. Think of digital programmable money. Now, why is this a good thing? It's a good thing because it's going to lead us to less friction and lower cost transactions, both in the way you transact on your savings, on your I see we've got Edward Jones here as well. People are going to invest on the blockchain, and people are also going to make payments on the blockchain. If you're a merchant and you fight with your bank about the transaction fees, stable coins will lead us to a more frictionless payment system. And banks are sometimes some banks and financial institutions are a little concerned about what this means for them, but the way we structured our legislation, banks can participate in this new economy. Banks can issue stable coins, banks can custody digital assets. So what did we do? We passed a bill called the Genius Act, which for the first time creates a regulatory framework for payment stablecoins, dollar-backed payment stablecoins. What does that mean? That means that if you've got a piece of physical currency, a paper dollar, you can actually move that in a tokenized form onto the blockchain, and you can make payments using a dollar-backed stable coin. It's different than a Bitcoin because it is stable. It's like a money market account. You have a physical dollar or high-quality liquid assets like treasuries in a bank account that backs up a tokenized dollar that moves frictionless and instantaneously on the blockchain. So it's going to increase speed of transactions and payments, and it's going to decrease friction and cost. And that is the future. It also means that you can transact across borders. You can send money instantaneously without cost or very low cost overseas. And this is very good for international business. Finally, the advantage of this, and the reason why this is important for the future, is that it will solidify and cement the American dollar, the US dollar, as the world's reserve currency. There's a whole lot that's happening globally in finance. And in third world countries, China is coming in and offering them their digital renminbi. They're offering a digital yuan. And it's a central bank digital currency where the communists can actually surveil the transactions. Well, what we want is private dollar-backed stablecoins that can be issued by a bank or a non-bank, like Circle, the company Circle with the U.S. dollar coin. You can go on Coinbase and you can download one of these things. But you'll know it's stable and you'll know it's backed by the dollar because of the law that we just passed that requires it to be audited and requires that for every tokenized dollar, every stable coin is backed by a bank account with physical currency in it. So you're saying, well, what does this pertain to me? It means that your payments in your life are going to eventually gravitate to the blockchain, and you're going to be able to make payments at a lower cost with greater speed. And instead of all this clearing and friction, this will happen a lot quicker for you. Then you've got the issue of market structure, which is a bill that we also passed. What does that mean? That means that we've had a lack of clarity. You've had innovation pushed offshore in digital assets because nobody knows what the digital asset is. Is this digital asset used for a payment? Is this digital asset used as a commodity like Bitcoin? Or is this digital asset a security? It's used to raise funds for an investment and to raise capital for an enterprise. What we have done with the Clarity Act, which is now sitting in the Senate, the Genius Act was signed into law by President Trump. The Clarity Act is going to put digital assets in the correct regulatory bucket. So if it's a digital asset that is used to raise capital for a business, it'll be a security regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. If it is a Bitcoin or a commodity, or if it's used as a utility, it'll be regulated by the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or if it's a payment, it's going to be regulated by the bank regulators. And so this is the future. There's a lot of questions about it, but I think we are with our legislative agenda, this crypto agenda, we are actually laying the groundwork for investor protection, consumer protection, and American leadership in crypto. And that's really important because we want to be the leaders in innovation in the United States. And we want to do it at the same time in a way that protects the American banking system. There's a lot of questions about whether or not the advance into this new world of crypto payments will hurt the banks. And I have worked really, really hard to make sure that as we move into this era that banks can participate in this and banks can custody digital assets, and we do it in a way that does not erode the deposit base, the traditional bank deposit base. Why is that important? Because bank deposits have always been and always will be and always should be the basis for traditional lending into the real economy. So let me just finish by saying one quick word about national security, and then I'll stop. This agenda for digital assets is part of national security because the worst thing that could happen to the United States leadership in the world is if we had chaos and a lack of clarity on the blockchain and the digital assets so that all of the innovation was happening elsewhere in the world. And it would be very dangerous if U.S. dollars were not able to be on the blockchain and that other currencies were out there to displace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. This agenda will solidify the dollar as the world's reserve currency and maintain the dollar as dominant in the global economy. This really matters in our competition with China. China is, and Indo-Pacific will tell us, China is saying that, and Xi Jinping and Beijing has told us and told the People's Liberation Army to be ready for a cross-strait invasion into Taiwan by 2027. Why does that matter? Because 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors are manufactured in Taiwan. I've been to Taiwan twice. I serve on the East Asia-Pacific Subcommittee and the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition with China. This is very, very dangerous time for us, and we need to make sure that Taiwan is positioned to defend itself. The 90% of those advanced semiconductors, those are the semiconductors, the microchips, the 2 to 3 nanometer microchips that nobody else produces in the world. Those are the microchips, the semiconductors that power artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is another future technology along with blockchain, and the Chinese Communist Party is militarizing artificial intelligence. They have an edge on us in very sensitive technologies, including AI, where they want to get to ASI, artificial superintelligence, again, to militarize it. They are producing 1 million drones a year. We're only producing 10,000 drones a year. They want AI to go on their naval ships. The Changxing Island shipyard near Shanghai produced last year more ships than the United States has produced since the end of World War II combined. The Chinese Navy is bigger than ours. The Chinese are making major moves in space. They are hacking our systems every single day in cyberspace. And they want to invade Taiwan because, not just because they want forced unification, and the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, but they want to dominate AI. They want to dominate the technologies of the future. On the blockchain, they have a central bank digital currency where they can surveil all of the transactions, and they want to displace the dollar as the world's reserve currency. I've been to the South China Sea. They're militarizing these island reefs so that they can block a resupply of the island from the United States. Been to Japan. We've got Marines in Okinawa. We've got EDCA sites in the north of the Philippines. This is all very serious. We're trying to build up our military presence in Guam. The Solomon Islands are now under the full control. You know, we took the Solomon Islands after World War II. The Solomon Islands are basically under the full control of the Chinese now. This is a very, very serious situation. We do not want war. But the way to prevent war is deterrence and strength. And the retreat from Afghanistan and what happened with the invasion in Ukraine sent a very dangerous signal to China. And I'll end with this, with what happened in Iran just a few weeks ago. This was an important development, not just to make sure that Iran does not have a nuclear bomb, a country that chants death to Israel, death to America. Not, you know, a nuclear Iran would be a disaster for world peace, but also for what it means for restoration of deterrence with China. And we got a classified briefing after Operation Midnight Hammer, the successful Air Force attack that took out Fordo and the other nuclear sites in Iran. But what I can tell you is the description of our commander-in-chief in the Situation Room as the operation unfolded. Of course, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs was there, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, John Ratcliffe is there. The entire national security team is there watching this very secret mission. We had two B-2 bombers from Whiteman Air Base head over the Pacific as a subterfuge, as a decoy, and we had 8 go over the Atlantic escorted by our F-35 Joint Strike Fighters, and we had Mediterranean and I think other CENTCOM Navy vessels that shot Tomahawks that took out one of the sites. The bomb busters, the MOPS, the big technology that we have that the Israelis don't have, that took out Fordo, which was the very secure nuclear site. Only we have the capability of taking out that site. And as the commander-in-chief is watching the operation unfold, the bombs drop, the explosions happen, and the very first reaction in global communications were a few tweets on X from people inside Iran saying there's been an explosion, there's a fire, there's noise, there's something happening at Fordo, and there's just kind of, you know, amateur reporting on the ground. And as our B-2 bombers and our amazing Air Force pilots are exiting Iranian airspace, President Trump looked to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and made the following observation. They didn't know we were there. And they didn't. Our Air Force demonstrated that evening an exquisite capability that nobody else on planet Earth has. And you know who else didn't know we were there? Vladimir Putin. You know who else didn't know we were there? Xi Jinping in Beijing. Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang. Nobody knew we were there. We were gone. We had executed the mission, and nobody knew we were there. The bottom line is, thanks to a strong commander-in-chief, thanks to a strong U.S. Air Force, thanks to the American taxpayers who support the strongest military in the world, we have restored deterrence in the world. And China is thinking twice about a cross-strait invasion of Taiwan. Deterrence is what we want. Peace through strength is what we want. We do not want war, but we have restored deterrence, and we have taken out the nuclear capability of the weapon state in Iran. So at the end of the day, we've got a secure border, we've got peace through strength, we've got a restored military. We have $170 billion going to build up our border patrol and our border security. And we have a stronger economy with inflation coming down and jet fuel for the economy on the way through deregulation, energy dominance, and tax cuts. I feel really good about the direction of the country, but more work needs to be done, and it would be a privilege to represent this part of Kentucky in the U.S. Senate. Thanks so much.
So obviously you are very loved here in Somerset, Kentucky. Not only are you my friend, but a friend of Somerset, and you already got a plaque, so now it's my privilege to hand you a bottle of Horse Soldier bourbon.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andy, Congressman. You did a wonderful job explaining everything going on, and some of it's scary, I must admit, but at least you have the bourbon to ease that pain. So on another note, a lot of you might have thought that we missed the Ambassador of the Month. First of all, can all the ambassadors stand up? These are the people that make really huge events seem so small. They are the backbone of the chamber. And now for the moment everyone has been waiting for, the Ambassador of the Month, Rebecca McCord. She is with Home Helpers and Home Care. So she is new to be up here on stage or in front of the stage. So thank you for all of your work, Rebecca. So in giving the bottle of bourbon to you, I also want to announce that Horse Soldier and Urban Stillhouse, they have just now come on board as a world-class sponsor. So we're super excited about that as well. So at this point, I'm going to have Ace come up and do the raffle that he's so good at, and I was so horrendous at.
So we're going to start off strong. We have Dairy Queen Blizzards for a year. That's up. So let's see who the winner is. 381108. Back there, Molly Hardy. So that goes there. All right. So then following up that, we have 4 UK football tickets with an orange parking pass to UK versus Ole Miss, compliments of Hinkle. And the winner of those tickets are 381293. And then we have a $50 gift card to the Chalet, compliments of Citizens National Bank of Somerset. And the winner of that is 381291. And we have another $50 gift card, compliments of Citizens National Bank, to Ace Hardware. and that number is 381115. And then we have one final gift card from Citizens National Bank to Cumberland Grill, and that winner is 381253. $381,253. All right, we'll draw again. We got 381173. $381,173. So then we have a couple more prizes, complimentary of Hinkle. We have an Arctic cooler. Krista, you want to show that to everybody? And the winner of that is 381080. 381080. Right here. And then we have a Hinkle case knife, and that winner is 381109. Back there, Mihu. And then we have another Hinkle Arctic cooler backpack, and that winner is 381212. Right over here. And then we have one final case knife from Hinkle, and that winner is 381112. And that's everything.
Thank you so much, Ace. So before we call Allie Elise up to do the Pledge of Allegiance, I did want to just mention that our next luncheon is going to be with the mayor and the judge to have a updated everything going on here locally, and we're really excited about that. So with that, if you would like to conclude with the Pledge of Allegiance. And thank you so much. Not only is she doing this, she was also in our youth programs. She was a Rogers Scholar and a Rogers Explorer, so thank you for being here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, in one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much.